Okay, so this is decided I'm going to do it as a separate lesson. So we probably even maybe in another week. So hello. So last lesson we spoke about non-renewable energy resources. Okay, and you made some work from your wrote advantage, disadvantage, and in one line, how do we convert them into electricity? We spoke about fossil fuels, which include oil, coal, natural gas, and nuclear energy. They're all non-renewable. Now we're moving on to the renewable energy resources. Okay, so at some point, just please pause me, copy all these types of non-renewable energy resources, and then write down again the advantage, the disadvantage, and in just one line, okay, how they used to convert energy into, or they convert themselves into electricity. Let's start with wind and solar. That's probably the most known one, okay? So wind, okay, we're living in an area with lots of wind, and you see these big turbines, okay? These turbines turn around, and they are a turbine, okay? So when they turn, inside somewhere, there's a magnet spinning inside the coil, like I showed you last lesson, okay? So that kinetic energy of the wind and the turbine then is converted into electric energy, okay? Very, there obviously the advantage, there's quite a few. One is that wind is free, okay, nobody actually owns it, okay. Secondly, it doesn't release any carbon dioxide. It's renewable, so it's not going to run out. The wind is going to carry on, okay. So these are the main advantages. Disadvantage, some people say there is not some people, there is effect on some wildlife, okay. Some people don't like it, they say it's an eyesore, okay. It's not pretty. I don't know. I lived under one of those for quite a while. I've never had any problem. I thought it was quite cool. Next one, which for me, in my opinion, is the biggest, it can have the biggest impact on us here in South Africa, and that's solar. So now here you have to not get confused between solar panels and solar cells and solar heating. Okay, a lot of people in this country have solar heating on their roof. That means when they have hot shower, they don't need to use electricity. It's just heat from the sun heats up the water, we've got hot water. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about solar cells. Solar cells, okay, or we call them also solar panels, is what we have on the roof on our school, okay, right? There's something there. I'm not going to get into scientific details, but what you need to write down, you just need to know that these solar panels or solar cells takes the radiation from the sun and converts it to electricity. Okay, so this is one of the only energy resources where there is actually no moving turbine. Okay, remember I told you usually we have some moving turbine. Here there is no moving turbine. It's just converting. There's some kind of magic going on there. I'm not going to get into that. A way of converting the sun radiation, the energy from the sun, directly into electricity. Okay, now advantages. Okay, energy, sun is free. Okay, not going to run out. Not in the next million years or so, okay? It doesn't release carbon dioxide, okay? And also because there's nothing moving there. If you're into mechanics, you know that when we have moving parts, usually things go wrong, okay? So in solar cells, nothing is moving, okay? So it's actually fantastic. You will go work for many, many years without any problem. The main disadvantage is how to store the things, okay? So we need to store that electricity, and currently we use batteries. And whenever we use batteries, we lose energy. So solar cells developed a lot in the last 10 years, not because the solar cells themselves became better, it's that the batteries become more efficient, okay? Many of you ask me, sir, you know, we bought all these solar panels, but now when there's a load shedding, there's no electricity. Why is that? What's the point of that? Well, we bought the solar panel, that's true, but we didn't buy the batteries, okay? When we generate electricity as a school, we feed it straight away to the national grid. So whenever we do that, that comes off from our bill. So we pay less money for electricity because we generate electricity, okay? So in that way is great. But the problem is, okay, we can't use our own electricity when Eskom is down because we don't have the batteries to store them. Now, the reason, as far as I know, that we don't have the batteries is because these cost a lot of money, Okay, this is the problem. The current problem with solar energy is the batteries. Okay, but the idea is hopefully at some point when we generate enough money, we save enough money, then we can buy these batteries, and then we'll be much better. Let's move on. Hydroelectric. So hydroelectric dam. Okay, what we do is there's a river. Okay, we've got that in the Van Staden. It's not hydroelectric, but we definitely have a dam. So you know what a dam is. We stop the water. The water goes up, 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 up. We have a big body of water. Then we let the water go down. Okay, water falls down. Okay, it has gravitational potential energy. As it goes down, it's converted to kinetic energy, like a waterfall. Okay, that waterfall then spins a turbine. So we put a turbine just where the water falls down. So we spins the turbine's turn, and the rest you know, just like in any kind of power station. Advantage, again, water is free. It's not going to, well, hopefully it's not going to run out. Okay, but it's renewable energy resource. We're not polluting. We're not releasing carbon dioxide. Disadvantage is we have a huge effect on the whole valley. So if we flood a river, then animals, plants, and maybe people will need to leave. Okay. In China, they had the great Yangtze River. They decide to build a dam to generate a lot of electricity. I think they had to evacuate like a few million people. Okay, and we can't even think about how many animals were affected by it. So there is serious issues with that as well. Geothermal. Okay, geothermal is quite a cool one. What you do is, inside the Earth, you probably learned that in geography. There's the core, and the core is really hot. And that heat goes all the way to the areas close to the surface of the Earth. So some areas around the Earth, if you dig in a few kilometers down, you reach certain places which are extremely hot. So what they do with geothermal, they drill into those places, okay, and then they push water into it. Okay, they flood water into that really hot area. And then that water gets hot, and through another little tube or I don't know what, that hot water comes out. So now we have suddenly hot water. It's so hot that it becomes steam. And the steam turns the turbine and so on and so on and so on and so on. But now it sounds like the same normal as a power station. But remember, we didn't burn any fuel here. The only thing we use is heat from the Earth itself. So it's renewable. It's not going to run out. The Earth is not going to go cold suddenly. Okay? And we didn't burn anything to release carbon dioxide. So that's also an advantage. Tidal. Okay, tidal and waves. They're very closely related. So tidal, the tide. Tide goes in, tide comes out. You've seen that in the sea. You also have that in the rivers. So in the River Thames, which is a big river in the UK, I'm sure you've heard of it, there are these giant wheels underneath the water. You can't even see them. They're at the bottom of the surface of the River Thames. Now, as the tide comes in, a lot of water is moving, and that makes the wheels turn. Okay? And the wheels are, you guessed it, they are turbines. So they're turning magnets in the coil and blah, 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 electricity. Then the tide goes out, they turn, but now to the other side, still generating electricity. So that's tidal wave. Pretty cool, isn't it? Okay, you can think about advantages and disadvantages, I'm sure. Wave energy is very similar, but not the same. So it's still in the sea, but instead of working on the movement of the tide, we're working on the waves. So what we've got is, we basically have these buoys, just like we have in the sea, buoys, okay? And inside these buoys, there's a magnet in the coil. And when the buoys move up and down, okay, the way it works, the magnet, let's say, goes up and down, but the coil remains in the same height. I don't know how they do that. It's quite interesting, okay? So we use this this motion to generate electricity, because it turns out all you need is coil to move relative to the magnet, and then you get electricity. Again, I think you can figure out your own advantage and disadvantages there. The last one is quite an interesting one, and that's biofuel. Biofuel, it was like the biggest, people thought that is going to save us maybe 10, 15 years ago, and now not so much. Biofuels are basically crops, like sugarcane, like palm oil, these kind of crops that you can grow over large areas. And you grow these crops, just like you grow any crop, like wheat, rice, anything. You grow them, and then you collect them, and then you ferment them. You store them in a place, and you ferment them, like a lot of us been fermenting pineapple beer, okay? So you ferment them. In the process of fermentation, gas is released. Okay? All kinds of gases, maybe also natural gas. Then you collect that gas, and then you burn it. Okay? So now, and then you burn it, you heat up water, turbines turn, and blah, 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 blah. Now, what is the advantage? Advantage, we say it's renewable energy resource. Why is it renewable energy? Because once you burn these crops, you can't use them again. Well, it's renewable because you can plant them again. So the sugar cane or whatever plant I'm using, okay, once I've fermented and burned the gas, that's done. But in the same field, I can then grow some more crops. Now, we also say they don't contribute to climate change, to global warming. Why is that? Because actually, when we burn the gases, we release carbon dioxide. So why can you say it doesn't release greenhouse gases? Because it does release. When we burn that gas that got fermented, that was released during fermentation, it releases carbon dioxide. But when we're growing these plants, how do plants grow? Okay, I'm sure you've heard of photosynthesis by now. So when these plants grow, they absorb carbon dioxide, okay, and release oxygen. So during this whole process of growing these plants, fermenting them, burning the gas, overall, carbon dioxide is not released. It's released and then it's absorbed, okay? So they're good. They're good for climate change, okay? The biggest disadvantage, and that came about in the last 10 years, and now people are not so sure about it anymore. Can you imagine all these areas where they grow these palm oil and all these crops that you use for biofuel? You got to ask yourself, what was there before? Okay, good chances that before there was a huge jungle, rainforest. Okay, so now we're cutting down the forest to grow these things. That's not really good. Okay, that's also going to cause more climate change because these rainforests captured a lot of carbon dioxide. Okay, now we're cutting them down. We're not capturing the carbon dioxide. The second thing is that maybe rainforests were not cut to allow these crops. Well, were we growing there before? Maybe we were growing corn, maybe we were growing rice, maybe we were growing wheat, which is food for people. And now we're growing food for electricity. Okay, we all need electricity, but we all need food. So if we have less space to grow food, now food price is going to go up. And we certainly see food prices going up in this country for the last 10 years. Okay? And around the world, you can probably say so. So that could be a lot because of that biofuel. So I think people have been rethinking that. Right, I spoke a lot. Remind you that all you need to do now is for each one of these renewable energy resources, write down in one sentence how it's converted to electricity, advantages and disadvantages. Right, guys, have a lovely day, and I'll see you next lesson.